If we just name a word at the beginning of the year and we never look back, it's not going to make a difference. I could have on the first day of January made a word, not thought about it for a whole 365 days, and then at the very end of the year, looked back and said, oh yeah, how'd that show up for me? That's going to be a lot different of an experience than if every day you show up with the same intention you had on January 1st. Welcome back to Happiness in Progress. I'm your host, Danielle Craig. I'm an Emmy Award-winning journalist, a mom, wife, and you know what I like to say, just a person looking for more joy in the everyday. This podcast is brought to you by the Mail Tribune. You can find more podcasts at mailtribune.com. And if you like listening, don't forget to click the subscribe button. And if you like this episode, go ahead and share it with a friend. All right, it is January 26th on the day that this episode is coming out, and I'm wondering how many of us have held that word of the year we deemed on January 1st as the word of the year for ourselves. How many of you are still holding on to that? How many of you have made a daily practice around it? Are you thinking about it often? Or maybe you've gotten into a habit of, I love the word of the year idea. It's so cool, right? We come up with the word of the year, something to focus on, something to drive us. But like things do in the month of January, they seem like a really great idea on January 1st, and they can kind of start to simmer out a little bit as the days go on. Here we are on the 26th. So I wanted to offer a few ideas to help those words really stick, help us to get the most out of that original intention that we set for the year. I think that if we set a word for the beginning of the year, I think it was probably for a reason. It was probably because it was important to us. So I want to help you make sure that it has the most impact for the most days of 2021. If you haven't heard of this idea of coming up with a word of the year, basically what it is an intention. Basically, you come up with a word for the whole year that you kind of focus on, and you let it lead your decisions, and you let that word help you grow in that specific way. My word this year is faith. I'll talk a lot about that throughout this episode. But last year, my word was committed, which, by the way, I did not commit to until the end of January. Words can be anything from gratitude to peace to strength to perseverance. The world is your oyster when it comes to what word you want. So what I'm going to talk about today is not how to choose one. There's lots of resources on that you can find, but how to make the word that you've already chosen really part of your life, how to get the most out of that word every single day of 2021. Okay, number one, you can't forget your word, right? So you need to put it somewhere you see it often. Out of sight, out of mind. That's what my mother-in-law used to tell me when I really wanted my then ex-boyfriend to date me again. He's now my husband. But she would say out of sight, out of mind. And that works for your word as well. If you don't have your word somewhere that you see it often, what's going to make you think of it? It's not going to come into your mind unless maybe there's a conversation or you're listening to a podcast like this one that reminds you have a word. Really, if you want that word to make an impact on your life, you need to be able to see it somewhere and see it often. Some of the places that I like to see it are on my phone, on the lock screen. Right when I pick up my phone, I can see that word, faith, every single time that I pick up my phone. Or you can put it in your planner. You can put it on Post-it notes on your mirror. Go old school, do that way. You can wear it. I love the idea of a bracelet that has the word. You can make it yourself. You can order it on Etsy, or maybe there's a ring that has your word on it. Maybe you just put it on your board at home. Maybe you have a chalkboard, you just write it on the chalkboard. Whatever is meaningful to you, wherever you'll see it often, and it will remind you that you did set an intention and your intention is whatever word it was, put it somewhere that you'll see it often. That is really going to make a huge difference for how this word can impact you through the year. The second thing is define your word. It is so easy to just pick a word out of obscurity and say that it's our word now. But when I picked the word faith, for instance, I'm sure that somebody else listening who picked the word faith probably doesn't have the same intention with that word that I do. I picked the word faith not only as a religious type of thing, but, faith in myself, a reminder to have faith in myself, a reminder to have faith in the process, a reminder to do less doubting and have more faith in everything I do, whether that's raising my children, whether that's doing this podcast, whether that's going to church, whatever it is, faith to me did not just mean some type of religious context, whereas someone listening might say, oh, well, when I said faith, I meant a religious context, and that's fine. That's wonderful. But that's exactly why we need to define what the word means for us at this particular time. If you would have asked me what faith meant 3 years ago when my husband's heart was stopping and all my kids were going to the ER, I would have said faith looked a lot different. Faith would have been a really religious faith and maybe a faith in this experience, a faith in God that everyone was going to be okay, a faith that's what faith would have looked like then. If you would have asked me what faith looked like when I was in high school, it would have looked a lot different. So I think that's why it's so important to define exactly what your word means to you. One of the ways that you can define your word is start with the actual dictionary definition. So if your word is perseverance, you could open up the dictionary. Okay, who am I kidding? You'll just Google it on your phone. Does anybody have a dictionary still? Okay, you'll open up your phone. You'll Google your word. Say it's perseverance. So you Googled perseverance, it's going to come up. Continue in a course of action, even in the face of difficulty or with little or no prospect of success. That is such a great starting point for this word. I love this word. So then you can look into this a little further. You can start asking yourself, why did I choose this word? Maybe it's because you've had a lot of medical treatments and there's more coming up this year. Maybe it's because 2020 just punched you in the gut and you need perseverance to get through another year that seems like it's going to be similar. Maybe you chose the word because you're going through a lot of big risks. Whatever it is, start asking yourself, why did I choose this word? Where do I want to see this word show up in my life that connects with that definition? Or maybe there are parts of the dictionary definition that don't apply to you. That's fine. Just edit them out. Do what works for you. You might want to take that word and put it on paper. You know those graphs that we used to make or those charts we used to make in elementary school? It would have one word in the middle with a big circle, and it would have a whole bunch of lines off of it. I think maybe they called them anchor charts. And then we would have a whole bunch of lines off of it with ideas coming off the main idea. So if your main idea or your main word is perseverance, on each one of those lines coming off that main bubble, think of how you want that word to impact your life, where you want perseverance or whatever your word is to show up in your life. So if it's perseverance, maybe you say, I want perseverance every time I go to the gym. I want perseverance because I'm going through a messy divorce. I want perseverance because I need to change my mindset as I look at life. You can go around your big bubble word that says perseverance and add all of those specifics. Adding the specifics, defining what that word means for you is really, really going to help you make sure that this word makes an impact on your life. That's the whole reason you set the intention in the first place, right? Okay, let's get to number 3 because it goes along with this. 3 is journal about it. Journaling offers a really great way for us to reflect on what's going on in our lives. And if we can add in the word, first of all, that will really help with the journaling prompts, right? So first of all, with what I was just talking about, that anchor chart with your word in the middle and the ideas that come off of it, maybe you do that once a month in your journal. Maybe that changes from month to month. I mentioned an example of someone going through a divorce. Maybe in January, you're totally fine. You're just cruising and your perseverance was all about workouts and eating well. And then in February, your relationship falls apart and perseverance becomes something about a divorce. And then maybe the next month, perseverance comes up when you lose your job and you've got to persevere through that. Actually, last year, I noticed that a lot of people had really amazing words like serenity, being calm, being thoughtful, mindful, and everything changed for what that word meant on January 1st and then March 12th, March 11th, when the pandemic began. For me, I chose the word committed in 2020. It took me a couple weeks. That's okay. I had a hard time committing back then. That's why I needed the word. So I had chosen the word commit and committed in 2020 because I really wanted to commit to whatever my experience was. Sometimes I have the habit of saying, oh, wait, what is that over there? That looks more fun. Oh, what did I do 2 years ago? Maybe I should do that. Where did I live a decade ago. Maybe I should live there. I have the habit of doing this. The grass is always greener. It's a practice to stay on my lawn and to remember that my grass is just as green as anyone else's. It's exactly where I need it to be. But that's why I chose that word, because I wanted to practice that. I wanted to commit to my experience that I was in. And when that pandemic rolled around in the spring, that really made a difference for me because I chose to commit to the fact that I was homeschooling. I'm not going to turn my head all the way back and remember the days where I didn't have to homeschool my kids. I chose to live my experience in the present with the word commit. Commit to every day, commit to showing up, commit to my experience. And that made a huge difference, but really, it changed. It evolved. January 1 commit wasn't January 1 commit. January, let's say 20th commit was not April 1st commit. Those two words throughout the year, it evolved, I evolved, and it looked a lot different. I think that's okay. So journaling is a great way to do this. Maybe once a month, find a day that works. It's the 26th today, so maybe the 26th of every month, you'll just sit down, write your word, and write the different ways that you want that word to show up, how it's showing up, and really what has changed in your life. A couple of other things that you could use in a journal type setting is affirmations. You could sit down every day and write an affirmation that involves your word. So my word is faith. I might sit down and say, faith that I know what is best for me. I have faith that I know what to do next. I have faith in the process. I have faith in my ability to continue, whatever it is. Those type of affirmations revolving around your word can make a huge difference. I mentioned the monthly check-in, but you can also do a weekly check-in or twice a month check-in, every day check-in. It's your word, it's your life, it's your journaling practice, so you get to choose. But whatever works for you, commit to something. Once you've decided how often you want to journal about your word, here are a couple of prompts you could use. You could think about your relationship with the word. You can think about what it means in your life right now. You could just think about observations of the word. Look at your life and how the word is showing up. Sometimes when we take a moment to write our ideas that have popped up into our life because we've made this intention. So, maybe I've made an intention to be grateful. My word is gratitude. Then I go throughout my life and I might notice that I'm being more grateful than normal. So take those opportunities when you notice that to sit down, write it down. Maybe you'd write, I noticed today I complained less because I started my day with a fresh glass of water, clean glass of water, and I was so grateful to have that water. Maybe you'll say, I'm so grateful to have a job in a time where so many people don't. I'm so thankful that I've been able to do this or been able to do that. I noticed in my life I've been feeling less down because I'm more grateful. Whatever it is, start writing that down, because when you write the evidence of something showing up in your life, you gather the momentum, you get the momentum to continue on with the practice. And really, I think that's what the word of the year is really all about, is creating an intentional practice around something that's important to you. If we just name a word at the beginning of the year and we never look back, it's not going to make a difference. I could have on the first day of January made a word, not thought about it for a whole 365 days. And then at the very end of the year, looked back and said, oh yeah, how'd that show up for me? That's going to be a lot different of an experience than if every day you show up with the same intention you had on January 1st. So those are the 3 ideas. Keep it where you can see it, define it, and journal about it. I really hope that adding your word of the year to your life as a practice is really meaningful to you and to your life and makes a difference for you. And if you are listening to this within the first week of its publishing date, so the last week of January 2021, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Mrs. Danielle Craig. I will try to make a couple of lock screen stills for you guys out of the Happiness and Progress font. It's such a fun font. I love it. It looks so beautiful with your word. If you're interested in that, go find me on Instagram and send me a DM, and I will try to make as many as possible. And with that, I want to thank you for being here on Happiness and Progress.